was something that we talked about yesterday. Are you pleased with what you saw from these guys so far as trying to get that short up and, when you guys are doing those positional periods?
This week?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's been an emphasis really all camp. It's funny because it's always something as a head coach that you have to balance. Defensive coaches want to tackle live more during camp. Offensive coaches don't, so you got to kind of find that tricky balance of making sure that you're staying healthy but also getting enough tackling done. You probably see less and less of that all over the country. That's where the players have to be mature enough to embrace the fundamentals that you're doing in the drills. Everybody's using that rolling bag now, which has gotten to be really popular. We did a drill with that earlier this week, and they just need to transfer that drill work to the game. So it's been emphasized. We're going to continue to emphasize it. It's something, obviously, I think some of our older players are doing a good job with that, but we still have a number of young players that need to continue to work on their fundamentals and technique, and we're working hard at that.
When you look at that Temple defense, how much of last year's film do you look at, or do you not at all, given the amount of turnover that happened?
No, I think with their scheme being the same, we definitely do that. You're pulling out our game from last year, but more of the types of offenses now that we're facing, like the Houstons of the world, the East Carolinas of the world. So you're pulling those films from last year, as well as some of the stuff from this year, just more from a personnel standpoint. And then looking at all the games from last year that they played a similar type offense. So that's what our breakdown has been mostly of. Army isn't very useful for us, as you can imagine. Stony Brook is a little bit, but it just was a little bit of a mismatch. So looking back at last year to kind of find out how they'll defend certain things. And then the other thing is Fordham played Temple a few years back as well, so we have that.
You mentioned on Tuesday that Paris is still kind of pushing Brendan for that spot at left tackle. How are you guys divvying up the reps this week there? Is Brendan still getting the majority of those?
Yeah, Brendan's getting the majority of the reps, and Paris is taking reps with the twos. And then obviously we also have Sterling. We have Sterling taking those reps. Right now, I said Sterling. I meant Chaz. Excuse me, I meant Chaz. Chaz is probably right now would be our third tackle in the game. In at right tackle.
James, this might be a weird question, but I remember you saying before, with measurables, you always try to look at everything with receivers, from here to the top of the middle finger. Is there anything with running backs that you really try to look at, and is there anything that really jumps off the charts with Saquon that kind of makes him stand out in that regard?
No, not really. I mean, it's probably different than other positions in terms of length isn't as important. As you can see, we got backs that are 5'6", 5'7", 5'8". You got guys. I think the ideal is probably 5'10", 5'11". You'd like a back that has the ability to be 220 plus. You'd like a back that has the ability to be 4'5" or better. You'd like a back that has a pro agility similar to a corner, in the low fours. Like a guy that can catch the ball, and that's I think probably the thing with Saquon. It's not one thing. It's that he has almost all of those things. He's got the body type you're looking for. He's got the mentality. He's got the intelligence. He's got a lot of those different traits. So I think you guys have heard me say that before. It's not necessarily one thing with him. It's the number of characteristics that he has.
You said after the first week you can get more out of your running game than last week. Obviously, it was a tough matchup. What are you looking for to get out of your running game specifically, and what are you doing to try and get that?
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is we're going to have our running game and the game plan each week. It's going to be a major part of what we do. Again, it's all going to be based on who we play and what they allow us to do. I mean, we scored 39 points last week, and I think we threw for over 300 yards. That was basically because of how they were defending the run and how many of the guys they had in the box. So that's really how it's going to play out. With this offense, it's kind of pick your poison. Are you going to stop the run and give us favorable throwing situations, or vice versa? So, the most important thing is we're going to try to run the ball. If they respect that and take it away, we're going to have answers in the throwing game. So I think some weeks you're going to see it be big. Some weeks I think you're going to see the passing game be a bigger role in it. And then I think, obviously, as we continue to do a better job up front, And don't get me wrong, I think we're doing a much better job, but I still think we can impose our will and be more physical, creating space on the offensive line. That will help as well. Combination of those two things.
James, I fully understand you can't go into much detail about this, but in terms of the scary hit that Kevin took last weekend, did he go? Are you able to share if he went through concussion protocol? What is that protocol, and do you all do anything extra throughout the week to test for those things?
Yeah, he's anybody that even is considered to have any type of head injury is going to go through the concussion protocols. Out of our hands, we're not involved in it at all. The doctors do. It's basically a certain amount of days after the hit, they check each day for symptoms, whether it's headaches, resting headaches, whether now that you put them through and you raise the heart rate, does a headache come at that point? There's also baseline computer tests that they take, how quickly they can respond to answers and things like that. So there's a whole protocol that we have nothing to do with, that the doctors go through, and we have a staff meeting every morning, 7 a.m., and Tim kind of lets us know where we're at with things.
Kind of staying on that subject, I know it's different for every position, but a guy like Jason, I mean, is it something where you think, a guy like that could play with a club if need be kind of thing, or would you be comfortable doing that?
Jason.
Kabinda.
Yeah, again, that's up to the doctors. Doctors will make the decision. We've had guys play with clubs before. Again, there's a lot of specifics and details of what determines whether you can play with a club or not. The type of injury that you have, but that would mean I'd have to get into specifics about the injury, which I'm not willing to do.
It was a good dance though.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, we took like 4 minutes this time instead of 3. That was nice.
Good. Isn't that nice?
And James, I spoke. I know you can't get into this other side of names or anything like that, but I spoke to a young linebacker that's on the radar too, on you guys' radar, and he said of all the linebackers he could pick from, linebacker U, the whole history, Naeem Wortman-White is who he wants to be like. In your mind, why would somebody say that, despite the fact that Naeem had almost no snaps last year, no reps?
It may be, when these guys come up here, they talk to our players, they interact with them. They also talk to other players about guys on our team. Naeem's one of the more respected players on our team for his football IQ, for his demeanor, for the type of teammate he is. He's very, very well respected. It's interesting, you talk to the players and they say, if they end up becoming a coach, who they're going to hire as their defense coordinator is Naeem. Or the linebacker coach is Naeem. He's just got a good way about him. He's an old guy. He's been around. He's got everybody respect just for the time that he's put in here, but also his play, and then also just the way he interacts with people. Naeem's one of these guys that has a personality. Kind of everybody loves him. Doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is. Naeem kind of has everybody's respect, and I think also the way he handled the adversity that he had last year, I think really, really impressed a lot of people. He was so positive.
How does Naeem go about building that football IQ? I've heard you say that a few times. Does he really study in the film room? Or
I think it's a combination. I mean, it's really no different than school. Some people are naturally gifted when it comes to math, or some people are naturally gifted when it comes to writing. Some people, football just comes easy to them. It makes sense. And then obviously, no different than in school, you can build on that by studying. The amount of reps you get, typically a freshman's football IQ is not going to be the same as a senior, and not just because of the studying, but the amount of reps. The more times you experience something and you build up muscle memory, that's part of it as well. So it's really no different than any other subject that you would study in school. Sometimes you're drawn to those things, sometimes it comes natural to you, and sometimes you have to work at it. And I think Naeem's done both. I think it's come natural to him a little bit. The game makes sense to him, and he's also worked at it. So it's very similar to that.
Now that Cam has played, do you intend to get him more involved with special teams? And how far away is he from, in an ideal situation, being able to get on the field?
Yeah, I think his role you're going to see continue to grow every week on special teams and with defense. It's one of the things I wanted to talk to him post-practice today. He's sitting up there waiting for me on the cold tubs with his 16 set of abs that he has that I don't know if I've ever seen before. But yeah, his role is going to continue to grow with us, on special teams and on defense.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.